Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about something that affects every one of us at some point in our lives: confidence. We all want to feel empowered, to stand tall in our truth, and move through life with a sense of purpose. But often the biggest roadblocks to confidence aren't out there in the world. They're within us. So I'm here to shine a light on 8 mistakes that are killing your confidence, mistakes we all make, but ones we can overcome. Mistake 1, neglecting your inner voice. How many times have you caught yourself thinking, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never succeed"? That inner critic can be harsh. But let me tell you something: confidence doesn't just come from the outside. It starts with the conversations you have with yourself. If you're constantly feeding yourself doubt, you're tearing down your own confidence. It's time to nurture that inner voice. Replace that self-doubt with words of encouragement. Speak to yourself with the same kindness you'd give to a loved one. Because if you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect the world to? Mistake 2, comparing yourself to others. In today's world of social media, it's easy to fall into the comparison trap. We scroll through other people's lives and think, wow, they have it all together. But let me remind you, what you see is just a highlight reel. You have your own journey, your own struggles, and your own victories. Comparing yourself to someone else's story diminishes your confidence because it makes you believe you're not enough. Trust in your path, trust in your timing, and know that your journey is just as valuable as anyone else's. Mistake 3, fear of failure. Oh, fear, how it loves to hold us back. How many dreams have been left unfulfilled because of the fear of failure? But here's the truth: you cannot let failure define you. You have to see failure as part of the process. It's not a dead end, it's a stepping stone. Confidence doesn't mean you won't fail. It means you trust yourself to rise every time you fall. You have to embrace failure, because every setback is preparing you for the next step forward. The only real failure is not trying at all. Mistake 4, overvaluing other people's opinions. We've all done it. We've let the voices of others define us. We've let someone else's opinion of who we should be dim our light. But you cannot let others write your story. Their opinions are not your truth. Confidence comes from owning your narrative, from standing in who you are, unapologetically. Don't let the world tell you who you should be. You already know deep down who you are. Mistake 5, holding on to perfectionism. Perfectionism is a thief of joy. It convinces you that nothing is ever good enough, and it keeps you from taking action. The reality is, perfection doesn't exist. Confidence comes when you allow yourself to be imperfect, when you give yourself the grace to grow. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect skill set, or the perfect opportunity. Take that step now, knowing that growth is part of the journey. Mistake 6, surrounding yourself with negative energy. You are the sum of the people you surround yourself with. If you're constantly around negativity, that energy seeps into your spirit and chips away at your confidence. Be mindful of who you let into your life. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, who believe in you, and who challenge you to grow. Confidence thrives in a positive, nurturing environment. Mistake 7, focusing on what you can't control. So often we lose confidence because we're too focused on things beyond our control. We get wrapped up in how other people will respond, what the outcome will be, or what obstacles lie ahead. But the truth is, you cannot control everything. What you can control is your effort, your mindset, and how you respond to challenges. When you let go of what you can't control, you create space for confidence to flourish. Mistake 8, forgetting to celebrate your wins. Lastly, we tend to be our harshest critics. We focus on what went wrong, what we could have done better, and forget to celebrate the things we've accomplished. Confidence grows when you take time to acknowledge your victories, no matter how small they may seem. Every step forward is worth celebrating. So take a moment to reflect on your progress and give yourself credit where it's due. In closing, confidence is not a destination, it's a journey. It's something you build day by day, choice by choice. Don't let these mistakes rob you of the confidence that's already within you. Speak kindly to yourself, stay in your lane, embrace failure, and above all, trust that you are enough exactly as you are. You have the power to reclaim your confidence, and when you do, the world will see the strength that's been in you all along. Neglecting your inner voice is one of the most common yet subtle ways we undermine our confidence. Your inner voice is the constant companion in your life, the one who speaks to you when no one else is around. It's that ongoing dialogue you have with yourself, your thoughts, beliefs, and self-perceptions. If you're not careful, that voice can become your harshest critic rather than your greatest ally. Think about it. How many times have you doubted yourself before you even tried something new? Maybe it's applying for a job, speaking up in a meeting, or stepping out of your comfort zone. Before you even take that step, your inner voice whispers, "You're not good enough," or "What if you fail?" And just like that, you've given power to doubt. That voice holds so much influence because we often don't question it. We take it as truth, assuming that if we think it, it must be real. But here's the thing, your inner voice isn't always right. In fact, it's shaped by past experiences, fears, and insecurities. If you face criticism, rejection, or failure in the past, your inner voice can take on those echoes, and repeat them over and over, reinforcing the narrative that you're not capable or worthy. It's easy to see how this can erode confidence over time. We let these internal messages loop in our minds, and each time they do, they chip away at our belief in ourselves, making it harder and harder to step forward with certainty. The impact of neglecting your inner voice is profound. When you constantly allow negative self-talk to dominate, it affects every area of your life. It makes you hesitant to take risks, afraid to pursue your dreams, and reluctant to trust your own abilities. It shows up in your relationships, in your work, and in how you see your future. Over time, this inner dialogue becomes a prison, keeping you stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and preventing you from reaching your full potential. But here's the good news, you have the power to change that dialogue. You can rewrite the narrative. The first step is to become aware of what you're telling yourself. Start paying attention to the thoughts that pop up when you're feeling uncertain or afraid. Are they kind? Are they empowering? Or are they filled with fear and self-criticism? Awareness is key because without it, those thoughts will continue to operate in the background, unnoticed but powerful. Once you're aware of your inner voice, you can start to challenge it. When a thought arises that tells you you're not enough, ask yourself, is this really true? What evidence do I have that supports this? Often you'll find that those negative thoughts are not based on fact but on fear. They're rooted in past hurts, not present realities. By questioning them, you begin to dismantle their power over you. It's also essential to replace those negative thoughts with positive, affirming ones. This isn't about being blindly optimistic, it's about being realistic and kind to yourself. Instead of letting your inner voice tell you, "I'll never be able to do this," shift the dialogue to, "I am capable of learning and growing," instead of saying, "I'm not good enough." Say, "I'm proud of the progress I've made, and I'm worthy of success." It might feel uncomfortable at first, but the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And here's something that often gets overlooked, your inner voice should be your biggest cheerleader, not your worst enemy. It should be the one that lifts you up when you're feeling down, the one that encourages you to keep going when you're ready to give up. You wouldn't speak to a friend the way you sometimes speak to yourself. So why do you allow that kind of talk in your own mind? When you treat yourself with the same kindness, patience, and encouragement that you offer to others, you begin to nurture the confidence that's been buried beneath self-doubt. Changing your inner dialogue takes time. It's not something that happens overnight, but with consistent effort, you can transform the way you speak to yourself. And when you do, you'll find that your confidence starts to grow naturally. You'll begin to trust yourself more, believe in your abilities, and approach life with a sense of empowerment. You'll be more willing to take risks, to push through fear, and to stand firm in your worth. Your inner voice is powerful. It has the potential to either build you up or break you down. By nurturing that voice and making it a source of strength rather than weakness, you give yourself the greatest gift of all, the confidence to show up as your truest, most authentic self. Comparing yourself to others is one of the most damaging habits you can fall into when it comes to your confidence. In today's world, it's almost second nature to compare ourselves to everyone around us, whether it's through social media, at work, or even in our personal relationships. We see someone else's success, their lifestyle, their appearance, and we immediately start measuring ourselves against them. But here's the truth, comparison is a thief of joy, and one of the quickest ways to undermine your self-worth. When you compare yourself to others, you're focusing on the external instead of the internal. You're looking at someone else's highlight reel without knowing the full story behind it. On social media, you might see a person who seems to have it all: the career, the relationships, the success. But what you don't see are the struggles, sacrifices, or insecurities that person may be going through. You're comparing your behind-the-scenes moments, filled with doubt and hardship, to someone else's curated, polished presentation of their life. This is unfair to you because it sets a standard that's not based in reality. What happens when you compare is that you start to diminish your own achievements and journey. You begin to feel like you're not doing enough, or that no matter how hard you try, you'll never measure up. Maybe someone else got the promotion you wanted, or they seem to have a perfect relationship, or they've achieved a level of fitness you're striving for. But here's the thing: your path is unique. Their success has nothing to do with your worth. The minute you make someone else's life the yardstick for your own, you lose sight of your own gifts, strengths, and progress. Comparison also creates a sense of lack and scarcity. Instead of focusing on what you have, you fixate on what you believe you don't have. You might think, I'll never be as successful as they are, or I'm not as talented or as beautiful as that person. This kind of thinking not only erodes your confidence, but it also breeds feelings of envy, resentment, and self-pity. And the more you dwell on these thoughts, the more you feed into the narrative that you're somehow less than others. The truth is, confidence cannot thrive in a mindset of scarcity. Confidence grows when you learn to appreciate your own journey, embrace your uniqueness, and recognize that someone else's success does not take away from your own. What we often forget is that comparison puts us in a constant state of competition, one that doesn't exist except in our minds. We start competing with people who may not even be aware of it, and that creates unnecessary pressure. Instead of focusing on your own goals, talents, and progress, you become distracted by what others are doing. You may even begin to lose sight of what truly matters to you because you're so busy trying to measure up to someone else's standards. This can lead to burnout, frustration, and a deep sense of inadequacy. Now let's talk about the mindset behind comparison. Many times when we compare ourselves to others, it stems from a place of insecurity and fear. We fear that we're not enough, that we're missing out, or that we'll be left behind. These fears drive us to constantly look outward for validation. We seek external markers of success, whether it's wealth, beauty, or achievement, as a way to fill the void within. But the truth is, no amount of comparison will ever make you feel truly fulfilled. The more you look to others for a sense of worth, the more you disconnect from the truth that your value is inherent. It's not something that can be taken away, no matter how much someone else seems to have. One of the most freeing realizations you can come to is that your journey is yours alone. You're not in competition with anyone else because no one else has lived your life, faced your challenges, or walked in your shoes. Every experience you've had, every lesson you've learned has shaped you into the person you are today. And that journey is invaluable. When you stop comparing, you start to focus on what's important: your own growth, your own progress, and your own happiness. Instead of comparing yourself to others, try comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. That's the only comparison that truly matters. Are you growing? Are you learning? Are you becoming a better version of yourself? These are the questions that will actually help you build confidence because they're rooted in self-awareness and self-compassion, not external validation. It's also important to remember that everyone's timeline is different. We all have our own pace, our own timing, and our own seasons of growth. Just because someone else may seem to be ahead doesn't mean you're behind. What's meant for you will come to you in its own time. Trust that your path is unfolding exactly as it should, and that your journey has its own unique timing and rhythm. By embracing your own pace, you free yourself from the pressure of comparison and allow yourself to grow in a way that's authentic to you. Another key to breaking free from comparison is practicing gratitude. When you focus on what you have, your talents, your strengths, your achievements, you shift your mindset from lack to abundance. Gratitude helps you see the value in your own life and reminds you that you are enough, exactly as you are. It's a powerful antidote to comparison because it centers you in the present moment, grounding you in what's real and true in your own life. At the end of the day, comparing yourself to others will never lead to lasting confidence. True confidence comes from within. It comes from knowing who you are, embracing your own journey, and trusting that you are enough just as you are. When you let go of the need to measure up to others, you create space for your own brilliance to shine. You begin to see that you are worthy of success, happiness, and fulfillment, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you are uniquely, beautifully, and powerfully you. Fear of failure is a powerful force that can paralyze even the most capable and talented individuals. It's not just about the possibility of making mistakes, it's about the weight we attach to those mistakes, the fear of what failure says about us, and the anxiety over how others will perceive us when we fall short. This fear has a sneaky way of infiltrating our minds and holding us back from reaching our true potential. It convinces us to stay in our comfort zones, avoid risks, and settle for less than what we're truly capable of. At its core, fear of failure is rooted in the idea that failure defines us. We often believe that if we fail, it's a reflection of who we are as people. We internalize the experience, thinking, if I fail at this, it means I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable. Instead of seeing failure as a temporary event or a learning experience, we mistakenly label it as a permanent flaw in our character. This mindset is damaging because it doesn't leave room for growth or improvement. It traps us in a cycle of self-doubt, where the fear of not measuring up becomes more powerful than the desire to try. The fear of failure also brings with it an intense need for perfection. We set unrealistically high standards for ourselves, believing that anything less than perfection is unacceptable. But the reality is, perfection is an illusion. No one achieves greatness without encountering setbacks along the way. The most successful people in the world, those we admire for their achievements, have all experienced failure at some point. What sets them apart is not the absence of failure, but their ability to persevere in spite of it. They don't allow failure to define them. Instead, they see it as an opportunity to learn and grow. When we let the fear of failure dominate our decisions, we often choose safety over opportunity. We avoid situations that challenge us, where the possibility of failure looms large. But in doing so, we also miss out on chances for growth, progress, and success. The fear convinces us that staying where we are is safer than taking a risk and potentially falling short. We tell ourselves, if I don't try, I can't fail, but that's not true. In avoiding the risk, we fail in another way by denying ourselves the opportunity to grow, to discover what we're truly capable of, and to experience the fulfillment that comes with overcoming obstacles. This fear of failure is often amplified by the judgments we anticipate from others. We worry about how people will perceive us if we fail. Will they see us as incompetent? Will they criticize us? This external pressure can be overwhelming, especially in a world that seems to value success above all else. But the truth is, the fear of what others think is often much worse than the reality. Most people are too focused on their own lives to be overly concerned with your failures. And even if they do notice, their opinions do not define your worth. Giving too much weight to what others think is another way we hand over our power and let fear control our actions. One of the most liberating realizations is that failure is not the opposite of success, it's a part of it. Failure is a teacher. It provides valuable lessons, insight, and experience that no amount of success can give you. Every failure brings you one step closer to success because it forces you to adapt, to innovate, and to push beyond your limitations. When you embrace failure as a natural and necessary part of the journey, it loses its power over you. Instead of fearing it, you begin to see it as a tool for growth. Think about the moments in your life when you've learned the most. Chances are, those lessons didn't come from times of smooth sailing. They came from challenges, from moments when things didn't go according to plan, and from failures that forced you to rethink your approach. Failure has a way of sharpening your focus, building resilience, and helping you develop the skills needed for future success. When you recognize the value in those experiences, the fear of failure begins to diminish. It becomes less about avoiding failure at all costs, and more about learning how to navigate through it when it inevitably comes. What's important to understand is that failure is temporary. It doesn't last forever, and it certainly doesn't define your entire journey. Every failure is a single moment in time, a snapshot, not the whole picture. You have the power to move forward, to try again, and to build on what you've learned. Each time you face failure and choose to keep going, you're reinforcing your own strength and resilience. Over time, you begin to trust yourself more. You develop confidence not in the absence of failure, but in your ability to overcome it. One of the biggest barriers to overcoming the fear of failure is the belief that we have to do everything alone. We often isolate ourselves, thinking that if we fail, we have to deal with the fallout by ourselves. But reaching out for support is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. When you allow others to support you, whether it's through advice, encouragement, or simply being there when things don't go as planned, you create a network of resilience. Failure feels less daunting when you know you're not facing it alone. Lastly, shifting your perspective on failure can transform how you approach it. Instead of seeing failure as something to avoid, try to see it as a necessary part of the process. Every successful person you admire has failed, often many times. What allowed them to succeed was their ability to persist in the face of failure. They didn't let one setback define their journey. They learned from it, adjusted their course, and kept moving forward. When you adopt this mindset, failure becomes less of a threat and more of an opportunity for growth. Fear of failure is natural, but it doesn't have to control your life. The key is to recognize that failure is not the end, it's just a step along the way. You are capable of so much more than you realize, and the only way to unlock that potential is to face your fear head on. Yes, you may stumble, and yes, things may not always go as planned, but each time you get back up, you're building the strength, wisdom, and resilience that will ultimately lead to your success. Overvaluing other people's opinions is one of the most subtle, yet deeply damaging habits that can erode your confidence and sense of self. From an early age, we are conditioned to seek approval, to fit in, and to be accepted by those around us. Whether it's from family, friends, colleagues, or even strangers, we often place far too much value on how others see us. Over time, this can lead to a life lived in the shadow of other people's expectations, rather than one guided by our own truth and desires. At the root of overvaluing other people's opinions is a fear of rejection. We all want to belong and to feel validated. This is a natural human desire. But when the need for validation becomes too strong, we start shaping our actions, decisions, and even our personalities to match what we think others want from us. We fear that if we don't conform, we'll be judged, criticized, or left out. And so we compromise, sometimes in small ways, other times in significant ways, just to keep the approval of others. One of the greatest dangers of putting too much weight on what others think is that it distances you from your authentic self. When you are constantly adjusting to fit into someone else's mold, you lose sight of who you truly are and what you genuinely want. Your decisions no longer reflect your own needs, values, or dreams. They reflect what you think will make others happy or what will gain their approval. This not only weakens your confidence, but also creates a growing sense of dissatisfaction and inner conflict. The more you suppress your true self to meet the expectations of others, the more disconnected you become from your own identity. This pattern often starts with small, seemingly harmless compromises. Maybe you choose a career path because it's what your parents wanted, or you stay in a relationship because you fear what others will think if it ends. Over time, these choices add up, and before you know it, you're living a life that doesn't align with who you are. The weight of other people's opinions becomes a burden you carry, influencing not only major life decisions, but even your day-to-day behavior. You might second-guess yourself before speaking up in a meeting, hold back on sharing your true feelings, or constantly seek reassurance before making decisions. In every one of these moments, you're handing over your power, letting other people's voices drown out your own. Another way this shows up is through the fear of judgment. The thought of being judged by others can be paralyzing. It can stop you from taking risks, expressing your true opinions, or trying something new. You may worry that if you fail, others will see you as incompetent or inadequate. Or perhaps you're concerned that if you show too much confidence, others will perceive you as arrogant. These fears keep you in a box, constantly trying to strike the delicate balance between not standing out too much and not falling short. But the reality is, no matter what you do, you will never be able to control how everyone else perceives you. People's opinions are often shaped by their own experiences, biases, and insecurities, and are not an accurate reflection of your worth. Overvaluing other people's opinions also stifles your creativity and limits your potential. When you're constantly worried about what others will think, you become afraid to take bold steps or to pursue unconventional paths. Innovation, creativity, and true personal growth all require a certain level of risk and vulnerability. They require you to step into the unknown, to be willing to fail, and to trust in your own abilities. But if you're always seeking external approval, you're likely to stay within the confines of what's safe and acceptable to others. This fear of stepping out of line, of going against the grain, keeps you from reaching your full potential. You end up playing small in a life that's meant to be big. There's also a deeper emotional toll that comes from prioritizing other people's opinions over your own. It creates a constant state of anxiety and uncertainty because you're always chasing approval that can never be fully guaranteed. Even when you do get validation from others, it's often fleeting. You might feel good for a moment, but soon you'll find yourself needing more reassurance. This cycle is exhausting and leaves you feeling dependent on others for your sense of self-worth. And the more you rely on external validation, the less you trust your own judgment, inner voice. Over time, this erodes your confidence, making you feel like you need someone else to confirm your value before you can truly believe in it. What's important to understand is that no one else can truly define your worth. Other people's opinions are just that, opinions. They're subjective, often incomplete, and filtered through their own perspectives and experiences. While it's natural to seek feedback from those we trust, it's essential to remember that no one else is living your life. No one else knows your dreams, your struggles, or your potential as well as you do. When you overvalue the opinions of others, you give them power. They shouldn't have the power to dictate your choices, your happiness, and your sense of self. The truth is, you can't please everyone, no matter how hard you try. There will always be someone who disagrees with you, someone who doesn't understand your choices, or someone who judges you unfairly. But that's okay. Your worth isn't determined by how many people approve of you. It's determined by how true you are to yourself, by how well you honor your own values and desires. Confidence comes from within, from knowing who you are and standing firm in that knowledge, regardless of what others think. Breaking free from the need for external approval requires courage and self-awareness. It means learning to trust your own instincts, to believe in your own abilities, and to validate yourself without needing others to do it for you. It's about setting boundaries and being willing to disappoint people if necessary in order to stay true to yourself. And while this can be uncomfortable at first, it's also incredibly freeing. When you stop living for other people's approval, you open yourself up to a life of authenticity, purpose, and self-acceptance. Ultimately, overvaluing other people's opinions is a habit that can steal your joy, drain your confidence, and keep you from living a life that's truly yours. But the moment you realize that your worth is not up for debate, that you don't need anyone else's permission to be who you are, is the moment you reclaim your power. And in that space of self-trust and self-love, confidence flourishes, and you begin to live not for others, but for the person you were always meant to be.